course. As is tradition, I forget to link the stream. I forget to do all the things. Nothing has changed on my end. Here's the question though. Am I streaming? I am. Hey, and it did it. Oh, beautiful. Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, does this still work? It does. My mute button still works. Can you believe it? I can't. I had this like whole thing planned. Like I was gonna like hide my face, and I was gonna like play this like music, like dun, 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 dun. What's that called? Is that the Dawn of Man music? I can't remember. I'm gonna make myself big for the beginning because we don't really have. I mean, I have a plan. I know what I'm gonna do, but I imagine it's gonna take a sec for some people to kind of file in. If anybody even comes, because it begins gone for so fucking long. So yeah, we're just gonna hang for a minute with my face big, and then I'll make my face small when we get to a game. There's some things that I'm interested in talking about, and then there's some other options. And also I'm probably gonna get interrupted here in the next 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, because the friends are going to come out of the shower, and then they're going to tell me that they're leaving, and then I'm going to say goodbye. And so, and there'll be some very embarrassing bad German from me. So just prepare for that. That's going to happen. And they're going to speak perfectly good German because they are German. And I'm not. So that's going to be, that's just the plan. You might hear him now. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how far. This microphone typically doesn't pick up things too far away. I actually wanted to, let's just throw out this small little recommendation now, because nobody's here. If anybody's interested in starting a new, like a podcast or a stream or a YouTube channel. Hello, Dream Cartographer. Welcome back. It's good to see your name. But if anybody's interested in starting like a podcast or a stream or something, what you will inevitably run into is something along the lines of like, what mic should I buy, right? Because you can't stream with your webcam mic or your laptop mic or whatever, or you can't podcast with that microphone either because it just sounds like garbage. And so what you'll inevitably do is you'll go online and you say, what microphone should I buy? Right, and you'll Google it, and then it'll pull up results, and these results will say something to the effect of buy a Blue brand microphone. Now let me tell you from my experience. So years ago, I don't even know where you're going to find it. I don't know if you can find it, but there was a podcast that I did, and I'm not going to say the name because it's embarrassing. So there was a podcast that I did years and years ago. And that we're talking like before Anchor, before all of those things, before all of this like super easy shit that made podcasting like unbelievably simple, where you can just like download an app for free and then your podcast is on Spotify all of a sudden. Back in the day, you had to apply to have your podcast make it to podcast, not networks, but like RSS feed readers, which is what podcast apps are, right? You had to apply. And so I had to figure out all this shit on my own. And I also Googled what microphone should I buy, and everybody said online to buy a Blue. And I don't think that's a very good idea. And a lot of people say that you need to buy a cardioid condenser microphone. Cardioid condenser is just a specific type of microphone. They're supposedly made for voice. They're very good at picking up voice. They're more sensitive. They can pick up finer details in voice. But I've largely found that to be unnecessary. And a lot of the times, cardioid condenser microphones really screw up your ability to especially in the early stages when you're not really sure how to audio edit, you're not very good at balancing, and you're not very familiar with like the various things that you need in order to make your audio sound clean. And so most of the time your audio ends up sounding really shitty because you have a microphone which is too sensitive unnecessarily. So my recommendation is to get, if you're interested in doing something like this, like what I do, is to get a dynamic microphone. Dynamic microphones are the more classic style of microphone that you've likely seen. Like that's what singers use on stage, for example. And the reason why is because those microphones are designed to only pick up what is directly in front of them, right? They only pick up what's right here. And the reason why that's valuable for you is because most of the time your house hasn't set up for a cardioid condenser microphone, right? Cardioid condenser microphones are so sensitive that they can pick up the echoes of your voice on the walls. And so that's why they're used in studio settings, because studio settings are vacuums of sound, right? Like they have soundproofing material all around the house, or all around the room. There's all this foam. There's all, it's like the floorboards are 2 inches above the actual floor. Like there's all of these things that go into making a soundproof room so that the cardioid condenser microphone sounds good. And the results are incredible. Like the microphone sounds so much better than a dynamic microphone in a vacuum. But a dynamic microphone is going to sound much, 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 much better in your average everyday. Oh, here's my office. And I mean, I'm not kidding. Like when I did this podcast, guys, it's got to be close to 10 years ago now. I was like, I bought a Blue microphone, and then suddenly, because I bought this $80 Blue microphone, suddenly I was needing to buy like egg crates, and like I was sitting under blankets and shit to make sure that the audio wasn't getting all fucky. Had I just bought a dynamic microphone from the outset, I probably would have still been using that microphone to this day. So, yeah. Also, another weird thing with dynamic versus cardioid is cardioid mics, they pick up all of the little p, p and b, b and t, 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 all those sounds. They pick them up so much that they peak your microphone constantly. So you can't really, it's hard to actually get used to softening the P sound so that you don't peak your microphone, right? But with dynamic, they don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care. Which is why my audio doesn't sound like it's the greatest audio of all time, but I've also accepted the fact that my audio is not going to sound great, and I'm not going to do the work to make sure that my room is soundproofed. I'm just not. Never. It's too much. It's too expensive. It's too much. So I don't do it. And the dynamic microphone just solves all my problems for me. So this is all to say to anybody who's watching, anybody who's interested in making a podcast or doing a live stream or anything, when you inevitably search for what microphone should I buy, don't listen to the Blue microphone. Don't listen to cardioid condenser. Just buy the shit. So there's less of a problem with background noise. With dynamic microphones, yes. Yeah. Because they only pick up directly what's in front of them. They're not so sensitive. Like, I don't know. Can you hear my PC fans? I'll be quiet. Okay, I think that was long enough. Yeah, you can. Or is it like really loud, or is it is it intrusive? Because I can tell you right now, if I had a cardioid condenser microphone, it would drive you insane. It would be so loud. It's just like this ever present. Now, part of the problem is that I'm trying out a new configuration for the office. I might need to move my PC under the desk. Right now it's on top of the desk. It got quieter suddenly, probably because I'm talking. But yeah, so that's the kind of the difference. Anyway, how's everybody doing? It's been like a minute. It's been like, what, 4 weeks? Or 5 weeks now? Has it been 5 weeks now since I've last streamed? It's been a while. Maybe I could go into that a little bit while we still wait for some people to funnel in. I'm definitely going to go longer today, partially because I've been gone for so long, and also because my wife is actually at a birthday party in a nearby city, so she's going to be gone for quite a while. Last stream was 3rd of February. How long ago was that? Oh my god. Is that true? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was like 6 weeks ago. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So, couple things about that. I've had a really wild February. This has to go down on record as one of the wildest Februaries. That's what my Twitch. I mean, I believe you. It's just like crazy to think about that it's been that long. But that was definitely top 10 wildest Februaries I've ever experienced. It was just ridiculous. I mean, it was one thing after another. It was like, we finally got the go-ahead to move. We were ready to go. We moved into the new place. The new place was, that was just an absolute colossal amount of work. Here's one thing that I didn't realize about living in Germany is that when you move into a new apartment, you actually have to like do all of it. Like when you move into an apartment in America, you're literally not allowed to do anything. Like you're not allowed to paint. You're not allowed to put in new furniture. Well, I mean, you put in like a couch and shit. You don't put in like a stove or like a fridge, or lights. Like you don't put in lights in America when you move into a place. Here it's expected. Like that's a normal thing to do. Is when you move into a new place, you either buy the kitchen the previous renters had, or you buy your own kitchen and you move the kitchen in. And kitchen meaning stove, washing machine, sometimes sink, refrigerator. You move all of that in yourself, and also you have to buy all the light fixtures because usually the previous tenant moves their previous light fixtures out with them. They bring their light fixtures. And I'm not talking like lamps. I'm talking like the shit in the ceiling. And you do the wiring. None of these things I can do. It's pretty wild. And you're also expected to paint, which I didn't know. That was not something I was aware of. That you paint. I don't think I've ever painted in my entire life. No, I haven't. That was the first time I've ever painted. So then after I paint and we get the light fixtures and all that shit, then I contracted COVID from I presume my German class, because a bunch of people in our class had COVID. And I don't understand how this is a mystery to me. While I had COVID, I got strep throat. Or at least what I assume is strep throat. I was never diagnosed with strep throat, but like the symptoms were 1-for-1 strep throat. And I mean, I couldn't talk. I couldn't drink water. I mean, it was so crazy. My throat was covered in like white pus, and it went all the way. It was awful. It was the worst. I've never had strep throat before. But so our doctor in Germany said that apparently some forms of COVID. Fertig?
Ja.
Du kannst Tschüss sagen.
Dusche abtrocknen. Das Blaue?
Nö, das Graue. Die graue, es ist die Wärmehalter. Warmhalter.
Heizung.
Ja, Heizung, ja, danke. But yeah, so I couldn't. What's weird about strep throat, or at least what I assume is strep throat, is things that you wouldn't expect to hurt. Like like they tell you that with strep throat, you're like, oh well, you know, like drink cold water or like eat ice cream because the cold soothes it, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, it was so much more painful, and it just wouldn't go away. I mean, days and days. I had to go on antibiotics. Meanwhile, I had COVID as well, so I was done. Like I couldn't do shit. It was awful. I couldn't even go to like online school. I didn't watch TV. I didn't do anything at all. It was like literally laying on the couch all day being sick, which is weird for me. Like that's not a normal thing for me to do that. But yeah. So, Gainsey? Ja?
Ah, da ist ja meine Jacke.
Oh ja, deine Jacke, ja. Du brauchst das. Cool. Well, ja.
Danke.
Ja,
für
bitte.
alles wieder.
Ja, bitte.
Wir bleiben in Kontakt.
Ja, absolut. Ja.
Und
Ja. Cool.
wenn wir wieder Zeit haben.
Ja, viel Glück mit dem Badezimmer.
Viel Glück hier.
Ja, danke. Und ja.
Bis bald.
Ja, bis bald. Ja.
Ciao, Balu.
Oh, Balu. Schönen Abend.
Dir auch, danke.
Ja.
Ciao.
Tschüss.
Tschüss, Balu. Hast du noch alles auf?
Yeah, this happened while I was moving. Basically, like right as I was ending the move was when I was starting to get sick. Not only that, but now that they're gone. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to tell you a quick secret. They were here. So the people who were showering, they lived here before us. They lived in this apartment before we did. And they're currently renovating their home, right? So they're not done, obviously, and specifically with the bathroom. So they come over to our apartment every once in a while so that they can shower. 1 second. Okay, all right. So now they're actually officially gone. Hop up. He forgot something. Hop up. So, where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. So their internet was just like completely unusable. Actually, I wanted to ask, how's the stream? Is the stream good? Because we got internet installed the other day, so I just wasn't sure. And I had thought like, okay, well maybe I'll just give it a shot. And all the tests that I was doing on like just how the internet was, how it worked. I mean, it was so unusable for streaming. It was way too low. And I was like, hey, never mind. This isn't worth it. Like I would rather not record for an hour and everybody's like, it's so laggy, it doesn't work, you know, like I didn't want to try it because I just knew based on the numbers, like there was just no way that it was going to work. So then they kind of made the executive decision between like being sick and knowing that the internet wasn't going to work. I was like, fuck it. Let's just like put a big old pause. Let's take a hiatus from the stream and we'll wait until all the things are actually working again. And then we will come together once again and continue the stream that is Vandayaga Gaming, right? And that is today, because we had the internet. Then we lost their internet for like 3 weeks. And in Germany, it's still not very common to have like a really big data plan. Like it's you buy your phone, like there's no Verizon. Like that doesn't exist. There's no Verizon, there's no T-Mobile, there's no, like AT&T. That doesn't exist here. It just, there isn't one. So you can go with like a small company, but most people buy their mobile data and their phone, like their phone number, from like grocery stores. Like my first phone number here was from like a small grocery store called Lidl. And it's really good. Oh, good. I'm glad. But yeah, so so my phone data, unbelievably, well, actually, it's unbelievable for an American, but it's really normal here, is just super low. And so we lost our internet because the previous tenants were ready. They got everything hooked up so that they could have their internet installed. So they brought their internet over and they plugged it in. Then we called the internet company and asked, okay, so when can we install our internet? And they were like, we have no idea. And then we found out 3 weeks later, we found out that in 3 weeks we could install it. I was like, okay, great. Well, so this stream is just fucked. Like it's just completely fucked for a long time. But now it's not fucked. It is unfucked now. Completely unfucked. And we are happy. But no one is here. So what are we going to do? None of the regulars have arrived. It's probably worth talking about the upcoming jam. There will be jams are continuing. We're not stopping jams. Just in case anybody was worried, the jams are going to occur. So, I'm not entirely sure when. I have a couple of emails to send. Wow, my streamer voice is like all fucked. I can't talk at my normal. I can't talk like I used to be able to. Need practice. But yeah, I have a couple of emails I want to send, and then some planning. But I think we can pretty safely assume that the next jam will be either between 2.5 weeks to 4 weeks from now is when it'll start. So I'm going to go through the usual motions, and I can tell you right now that my hope is that we have enough people who have something that they haven't finished, because that is definitely going to be kind of a major factor in this particular game jam. Like, we're going to try and focus on finishing something. And the reason why is because this was something that I learned in my MFA, and it ended up being really, really valuable, which was that when you go into your MFA, and it doesn't really matter what MFA you do. It could be in painting, it could be in music, it could be in, hell, it could be not even MFA. It could be in any master's degree, right? Like an MA or a BA or an MBA or whatever. What ends up always happening in college, and this is one of the reasons why I value university education so much, is because while you think that you're in university to learn English 101 and Math 1010 and sociology, and like, you think that you're there to learn these particular subjects, but the subjects are almost secondary. Like, you're just going to kind of learn that shit through osmosis just because they require you to take the classes, right? The real value of going to a university and the real value of taking classes is that they teach you how to commit to things and finish them, right? They teach you how to value learning. They teach you they teach you how to learn, right? How to learn effectively, how to learn correctly, as it were. And each time each iteration of school, you learn this a little bit better, in my opinion, or at least that was my experience. So like in high school, whatever, I wasn't a good high school student. And then in college, I was not a very good associate's degree student. And then by bachelor's, I kind of figured it out. And toward the end of my bachelor's, I had gotten the sense of like, okay, I get it now. Like I've learned how to learn, and I've learned how to commit to something. I've learned how to do something for 4 years and finish it, right? And then you get to your master's degree, and the master's degree was where it really stood out to me, because this was where there was no direction. It just said you have to pick something and do it in 3 years. You have to be done, but everything else is up to you. Right? And that pressure was really good. It was really good for me. Because like when I was in high school, I finished a novel. It was absolute shit. It was the worst. But I finished it, and I got this sense of like satisfaction from finishing something, and then I got addicted to that kind of concept of like setting out on a big thing and then doing it. But then I kind of, I don't know, like I stopped trying to write novels, and I was trying to write short stories, and I was an asshole. But anyway, so that's why I'm not trying to like say that the people who have been participating in the jams are now graduated from whatever. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But I'm trying to kind of emulate the idea of like, game jams are cool because they get you to put out something in a relatively short span of time. They get you to do something, right? They get you to finish something in terms of like very loose concept, very loose narrative, very loose everything. And you put it together, and everybody's always like, God, I hope it works. You know what I mean? Like, I hope so much that this is going to work, and that there will be no problems, and that there's no bugs, and that I didn't forget the ending of whatever, right? And so that's why I want this next jam to be kind of like, almost like fly in the face of it. Like I want you to return to something that was like, man, that was a good idea, but I'm working on other things and I kind of forgot about it. I did it 2 years ago and I don't know now. And maybe it'll flop. I don't know. But the thing that I really want is for that project that you didn't finish to go back and finish it. And I mean like actually finish it, which is why I think this jam is going to go longer than a regular jam would. Not like insanely longer, but what I want it to be like, okay, so for example, Dream Cartographer, right? Like the story of your jam was really cool. And now that you've learned a couple more things, it would be really, or you're the one about the blob boy with the sun and, you know, all that stuff. It would be really cool to go back and see you take another stab at it in terms of like you heard my feedback on its scene structure, right? Like that there was actually like 4 scenes in there, and it would be super cool to see you go back and, with the knowledge of that there's 4 scenes in there, flesh that out and finish it. You know what I mean? According to me, what the fuck do I know? But like, but you get what I'm saying. Like after receiving some feedback, don't move on to do the next thing. Go back and finish that thing, because then you get to always have that thing that you finished. You can use in applications. You can use in applications and applications. And I don't know what else to put there. But like you can use it to show off effectively, right? Because I brag the shit out of my novel. I always say that I finished a novel. And then it's published, even though it's not. It's published on Wattpad. I published it myself on Wattpad and Amazon. But I don't care. They don't fucking know. And they're not going to look. They don't care either. Everybody's lying. So but it's valuable. I think that's a valuable thing to say, to know that you finish something that you set out to finish. Now, I'm not saying Dream Cartographer, if you don't want to do that particular game, you don't have to. I'm just saying like, that is a pretty good example of what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's the game jam thing. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on? One sec, my wife texted me. Okay. The example sounds like expanding and polishing. I was thinking of some of mine that really are unfinished. Perry Lair, Snow, Memory Head. Yeah, okay, and that here's another thing too, is that it doesn't have to be something that you submitted to any of my game jams too. Like if there's just some project that you're like, oh, I loved that one. I made it 10 years ago when I lived in Europe, like whatever. As long as it's like a project that you began, you had an idea, you knew what you wanted to do with it, and then that was the end of the jam and you submitted it, and then you didn't go back to it or whatever. As long as it's what you would consider to be unfinished, right? But yeah, like I'm totally down for. I think those are all really good. So that is the plan. The plan for the next jam is to finish that thing, finish that the one that got away, as it were. And that kind of does it for the game jams. I mean, there's some talk with what the hell, Indiepocalypse. So that's kind of the driving force of this jam, is that Indiepocalypse is going to be that hopefully I'm going to pair up with Indiepocalypse, because I emailed him about it a while ago, and he said he was open to it. He said he was open to the idea of setting up a game jam where he would effectively teach me how to make his version, right, of like how he sets up his Indiepocalypse stuff for like the magazine format. So that would be the other thing, is what I really would like is for all the submitters to submit art from their game, if they have any. Like there are some people who are like literally, there's no art in their game whatsoever. But it would be so cool because that's kind of the thing with Indiepocalypse, is he pairs up with artists, right? He pairs up with artists, and they make these gorgeous drawings that go along, and he kind of sticks them in between the submitters and the submissions and stuff. It's just beautiful. So pretty. But from what I understand, the artists that submit to Indiepocalypse are not the game designers. And this is a very common thing. So we can talk about that a little bit. This is a very common thing with what I think Indiepocalypse, and he kind of confirmed this as well, is doing, which is he's trying to replicate literary magazines. Or at least he was inspired by, I don't think he's necessarily one for one replicating literary magazines, but like he was inspired by the idea of literary magazines, which have been around for, at least since the early 1900s. And they were effectively just like, they're little books that are filled with writing from people who submit to them, right? Like I've been submitting short fiction to magazines for years, got into a few. And in these magazines, there's always a bunch of stories, bunch of poems, and then they also commit. Many magazines, not all, but many magazines hold a submission round for visual art as well. So like people will submit just like pictures or paintings or digital art or whatever, right? And they submit that to the magazine, and then the magazine kind of slots them in between the stories to give this magazine an overall cohesive feel of an artifact, right? An artistic artifact. And they're usually around a theme of some kind. Like the issue of Fiction International that I was published in was called Fluids. That was the theme of that particular issue. And so there was art of like the cover is a polar bear on an ice cap, like a floating ice in the sea, and there was other art related to Fluid, and so that's what Indiepocalypse is kind of doing as well, is like he doesn't seem to be doing the theme so strongly, but he does have this cohesion to the artifact that he puts out, right? Like he has these art pieces from these really great artists, and then he has these games, and for some reason they all it just feels like a really good package. And when I had thought about that, I started to think about what Vanda Yaha's like, what is the cohesion of Wanderjahr? And what always came to mind for me, it's like a zine plus video game model. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What always came to mind for me is that, like, the core tenets of WJG are education, narrative, and personal development, right? So, like, I'm not teaching about, like, science because I think that you should know about science. I'm teaching story to people who want to know a little bit more about story, right? But in learning about story, you have to learn about a bunch of other soft skills. Like, you have to learn about finishing things. You have to learn about organization. You have to learn about empathy. You have to learn about emotion. You have to learn about structure, and, like, all these other things. And all of this kind of leads into this personal growth that you have about yourself and about your art, right? Like, that's a part of the maturation effect of becoming a better artist, is that you yourself also mature. And so that was when I landed on the idea of, like, finishing something, because that is the mark of maturity, right? Is that you set out to, you finish the thing you set out to do. I think my wife sent me another text. And she is worried that she left her iron plugged in. What is this? It's a thing that is warm and you use it to make your hair straight. Crimper? Is that what it's called? I don't know. One second. Okay. Hair straightener, yes. Sorry, I'm not kidding. When you learn a new language, you start to forget words in your mother language, because they think about objects differently, and they call them different things. And, like, I'm certain that the Germans do not call a straightener a hair straightener. And I, like, actually forgot the word. I forgot what the word was. This happened to my wife too when we were in America. Is that she started forgetting German words because she's only surrounded by English, right? And so here's the opposite. And she said it was going to happen, and I kind of didn't believe her, but man, like, it's true. Like, when you only speak to people who speak German, you start to forget your own language. It's weird. That happened to my sister when she was learning Mandarin in university. Yeah, it's just like a thing. Like, it's so strange. It just, like, it starts to get into your brain and just erase things. Where, like, I'll be talking to my mom on video chat or something, because I talk to her every couple of weeks, and I'll sit there and just, like, what is that word? What is that word? And it's like simple. It's like intersection, right? Where my mom told me something about how they took one of the stop signs out of the crosswalk, and I was like, oh yeah, that what is that? What is the what, another word for crosswalk? Yep, taking 2 German classes ruined my ability to speak French and English. Yeah. Corbidash, welcome back. Well, yeah. I mean, you would have been here, I'm sure. It was just I wasn't here. You didn't take a hiatus. I took a hiatus. Although I must say it was forced. When it comes to languages, there can only be one. Apparently. It's kind of funny. So my stepbrother is a musician. I am taking a hiatus right now, also forced. Oh, really? What are you taking a hiatus in? But my My stepbrother is a musician, and he makes a lot of. He's made quite a few albums, but he's kind of like me, you know, like he's where we're not particularly like successful. We just like to do it, and we do it a lot, and we're never going to stop doing it. And he ended up getting married to a woman who is deaf. And I used to think that was so interesting when it was like, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago when he met her. Maybe 5. Man, was it longer? 7? Holy shit. But anyway, so he ended up marrying this deaf woman. And we just talked about how interesting that is. That he's basically dedicated his entire life to improving music, right? To improving himself and creating sound. And you know, the irony of her not being able to understand it. And then I had thought like, man, it's just like 1 in a million chance kind of thing. And then I ended up meeting and falling in love with the one woman who she speaks English, but like now I live in a country in which everything that I've dedicated my entire life to, the study of English, the structure of English, how to tell stories in English, how to like grammar, linguistics, everything I've done in my entire life has been focused on English. And now I live in a country in which people say they speak it, but they know like 9 words. And they don't understand the deep structure, right? Like I haven't spoken native English since February 3rd, basically. That's not entirely true because I did talk to my mom. But like I haven't spoken normal English, which in some ways actually I think is kind of an interesting and fun trip to be on, because like, so I've been writing my second novel, I guess third, but I don't count the one I wrote in high school. So second novel. And German is so hard to understand if you're not grammatically correct, that like their language can't be grammatically incorrect like English can, from what I can gather. The structure, it just doesn't work, and it doesn't sound right either. And I know that that's the case in English as well, but there's a little something else about it. I don't know what it is. It's just the language is just a bit more strict. And I think it's made some really interesting changes to my prose. Like my prose has changed. And because in a way, like German almost sounds like kind of an older version. Like once you understand the structure of German, it kind of, it almost sounds like an older version of English, which makes sense, obviously. But like, but it's interesting because like even people who I wouldn't expect to, like for example, people who I wouldn't expect to make a grammatical correction about something simple, make a grammatical correction about it. So like I said, mein Bruder ich und mein Bruder, right? Meaning me and my brother, mich und mein Bruder, which is totally normal. Me and my brother went to the store. It's grammatically incorrect in English, but whatever. It doesn't. Who gives a shit? But people here will say no, mein Bruder und ich, my brother and I, right? And so it's interesting because it's actually, when you're learning a grammatical structure which is more strict than yours for 3 hours a day every single fucking day, it actually does affect you. It's really weird, and my prose has changed as a result. Like you can go onto my Wattpad. I swear to God, I'm not just like doing a fucking commercial, even though I kind of am doing a commercial right now. If you go to the Wattpad and you read like the first chapter of the fantasy novel, and then up through the 6th chapter, I think you'll probably see a difference in the prose. Because the first chapter I started writing when I got here, and the 6th chapter I just finished like the other day. The streams must be good practice to keep the wheels greased. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I think I said this before you got here, but like, I've like stumbled over. I don't feel like I'm. I definitely feel rusty. Let's put it at that. Like I feel like I'm very rusty at this moment. With the stream, Like I'm stumbling over my words. I'm all over the place. I am not organized. I had a plan, but not as many people showed up as I expected to. Corbidash and Dream Cartographer are here. And there's some other people here as well, but I was told not to call them out by name, so I'm not going to do that. And yeah. But some of the regulars aren't here. And so I'm still kind of like, what should we do? Should we just, because for me, this is kind of like catch up. Like I'm catching up with the people who I used to converse with every week. And now I had thought to play If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, but I know that there were some people who really wanted to see that. So I'm wondering if maybe we can just either do something else or just chat. How are y'all? I want to hear more about y'all. I've told everybody about everything that I've done almost for every day since the stream went on hiatus. What are other people doing? Has anybody been playing any games? Any games that inspired them? Because I have one, but I played it on the PS5, so I don't have any footage. Even though I'd love to have footage of it. But I'm not going to buy a capture card. Because I have no money. Because I have no job. Because I can't get a job until I finish my language course. Yeah. It was Elden Ring. I'm doing a character-based writing challenge. Okay. Let's hear about this. I want to hear about this. What is a character? Okay, first of all, who's writing challenge? Second, who's your character? And third, I'll come up with a third question when I get the answer to the first two. I played a short hike and it was a nice hour-long game. I heard about that. My wife actually wanted to buy that, and then I told her it was an hour long, and she was like, "Oh, I don't." She loves Stardew Valley. It's like her favorite game ever. So, and she plays that all the time. And she really likes the art style, but she wants a game that she can like play for tons and tons and tons of time. Because yeah, it was hilarious. Like I played Stardew for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 hours, and I enjoyed it. It's a fun game, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just for some reason wasn't the exact thing for me. I love it. I love everything about it. I think it's a perfect like tincture of Concerned Ape's brain. You know, it's just a beautiful, perfect game, but it just wasn't for me. And then my wife comes, like I show her the game and we play a little bit of it together, co-op, and then she comes back, or like I check in on what she's been doing, I don't know, a couple months later, because she has it on the Switch. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, you're making beer and like there's all this shit that you can do that I had no idea. She's like, oh yeah, I'm a millionaire, it's not a big deal. It was so funny. Oh god, I loved it so much. But I can't remember exactly how I linked to Short Hike. Oh, because she liked it. Okay. Okay, so number one, it's organized by someone on the NaNoWriMo forums. Ah, good old NaNoWriMo. Though there is a Discord. Okay. NaNoWriMo, yeah. Yeah, NaNoWriMo. National Novel Writing Month. Yeah. I actually never participated in that. I did when I was like, this is going to be a great little circular story here. So when I was 17, NaNoWriMo was kind of coming into its thing, right? And that was, say I'm 29 now. I'll be 30 this year. So that was 13 years ago. So 13 years ago, NaNoWriMo was kind of like, was the first time I had ever heard of it. And it seemed like it was starting to get popular. And then when I was 18, I finished my, no, I was still 17, but I have a late year. So like I was 17 in my senior year. I have a late birthday, or an early birthday, whatever, fuck, I don't know. So I was 17. So NaNoWriMo rolls around in my senior year, and I had finished my novel kind of towards the beginning of my senior year. Yeah, that sounds right. And then, so I had heard of NaNoWriMo. I knew what NaNoWriMo was for a year, right? And then I submitted my own novel that I had been working on for like a year and a half to NaNoWriMo, and I was like, look how cool I am. I wrote a novel in a month. Like, I was such a dick. I was such an asshole. Thank God I'm not like that anymore. Jesus. See, I've been playing more smaller games lately because I'm sick of playing the fun out of a game. That's a really good point. You played the fun out of Stardew? Yeah, right. Played the fun out of something is a great phrase and very accurate. And it's why I stopped playing Elden Ring. Because I got to the, like, I finished Elden Ring. Well, like, I started it one kind of at the tail end of my illness and finished it like not that long later, because the only thing I had to do every day was be sick and play Elden Ring. And then a couple of days of school and coming home and finishing Elden Ring. And I loved that game so much that, like, the second I finished it, I was like, I don't want it to be over. Like, it's like when you finish a book and you're like, oh my God, my friends just died. And I was like, I don't want my friends to die. So I started the game over. And about 10 hours in, I was like, I've got to stop because I'm not going to be able to play this game anymore if I keep going. Even though I'm having fun right now. Even though I'm still having a shitload of fun with this game, I can't do it. If I keep playing, I'm gonna ruin it for me. I'm gonna play the fun out of it. So yeah, I get it. Also, I think that there's still a conversation to be had about shorter games. I know we've talked about it before, but like, I'm still waiting for this. Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be some way that short games become profitable for the people who make them and are popular enough among people who want to play them, because I would love to see the statistics of like the majority of really long games and how much they're actually finished. Like, I would love to see the finish rate of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I would love to. I bet like hardly anyone has finished that goddamn game. It's just too long. It's just too long. Wait, NaNoWriMo is an acronym. Yeah. It stands for National Novel Writing Month. Let's see. This year we were allowed to sign up to 3 characters. Oh, okay. I entered 3 of my male supporting characters for my middle grade magical girl sci-fi novel. Oh, okay. The one that you sent the pitch to me. About the like prodigal programming girl. Oh, yeah. The one I posted on a pitch on the server. Yeah. Okay. Had I read the next message, I could have avoided that. But that's really cool. That's super cool. So did they give you guidelines on setting up about designing your characters? Because there's actually not a novel. There's a book that I wanted to link in the Discord that I think can really help people. And I've forgotten to talk about it like 100 times, but it's ridiculously helpful. And kind of started my journey on the idea of scene. Like, it was weird because when I was going through my bachelor's degree, and even though I really loved my professors in my bachelor's degree, they didn't tell me what scenes were, right? I've mentioned this before on stream, that like nobody had ever told me what a building block of a story was until I was in my master's degree. And probably nobody would have had it not been Pinkney, because my other professor in my master's degree said absolutely dog shit nothing about scenes. It was only Pinkney who told me. But the interesting thing was after I finished my my bachelor's degree, there was, like, as you all were probably aware, there was a 3-year period between my bachelor's and my master's degree, and I wasn't getting better at writing. I couldn't figure out why. Blah 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 blah. I ran into this book called "Take Off Your Pants." Now that sounds pornographic, but it's not. "Take Off Your Pants" is a book about outlining stories, and it changed everything for me because it explained why a hero's journey is a hero's journey, and it explained the structure in a way that I like to explain it, right? Like a kind of a nuts and bolts, meat and potatoes. Like I don't like to get all fancy and say like follow your dreams. Like I say, this is what a scene structure is, right? And that's what this woman wrote in her book, Take Off Your Pants, and it's just awesome. But she also talks about how to outline characters as well, and I loved it. So yeah, maybe if anybody can find that and link it in the chat, that'd be great. If not, I will do that myself. I think that if I can pay $15 to $20 for a movie, or like $20 to $30 for a thick book, then $20 for a short game, 1 to 5 hours, is more than worth it. But there are $60 games with tens of hours of playtime. Yeah, right. Or tens of hours. Tens of hours is not necessarily incorrect either. Because like I played Elden Ring for 70 hours total, I think. Boy, did I get my money's worth, though. I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm still not convinced about how we value things, right? Like, it seems like gamers demand, but it's different. Like, because gamers demand, like, if I'm paying a full price for a game, I better get 10 billion hours. You know what I mean? Like I need 800 quadrillion hours. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And it's like, what is the quality of those hours, though? Right? Because I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I literally have no idea what I did in that game other than stab people. Like I felt nothing. And I love Ubisoft. Like I grew up on Ubisoft games. I'm not trying to talk shit about Ubisoft, but it's just like the way that the game is structured is that way, right? Like there are a lot of people who really love Valhalla. And because it's structured for them, right? Like it's this big open world that you can walk around in and you can imagine yourself. For me, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it just didn't work, and that's fine. And I'm not saying that. But then you look at a game like what the hell is that game called? You're like a park ranger for 3 hours, and it's a narrative-driven game, and you walk around in the park. Firewatch, that was the name. Firewatch is like a 2 to 3, maybe 4 hour game. And that game, it was $20, I think. And it was completely arresting. Like I started the game and I finished it that night. I was arrested in that game. Right? And which means it was, for whatever reason, specifically designed for me. You know what I mean? Like it just the cogs aligned, and it was just everything about that game was everything I was looking for. And I felt like my 3 hours having spent $20 on that game was a better $20 spent than the 30 something I spent for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, personally, right? Once again, I'm not talking shit about Ubisoft. It's just, we're talking about a subjective medium, right? We're talking about, like, some people really like, some people would assume that Willa Cather is a waste of money, right? They're incorrect, but some people would do that, or some people would look at a J.K. Rowling novel and think that is a waste of money because they don't like to read about wizards, right? But all of this is to say that Firewatch is a 3 hour game. Valhalla is a 67-hour game. I personally loved Firewatch more. And I felt like my money went further in terms of my emotional investment, in terms of my enjoyment, in terms of my, like what I thought about. And so it all just depends. But yeah, so, and to think that like somebody would laugh at you if you spent full price on Firewatch, right? They would be like, wow, you spent 20 to 30, however much that game costs, on Firewatch? That's so crazy. You should wait until that's $5. And it's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't wait until Dune was in the dollar theater. You know what I mean? Like I would go see Dune literally the moment it came out. and I would spend the full amount of money, and I would buy the popcorn, and I would walk out of there having spent $50 for 2 hours, right? Or like, you know, like Hemingway's books are still fucking expensive, and they came out like 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Like Hemingway's books are still like $15 to $20, and that dude was writing them way before the internet, way before Steam sales. So I don't know. I just like the valuation on time spent is a very confusing one to me. This is actually a good point, I think, to bring up with Neophyte Studios, the previous channel that I worked on. If you go back and watch our Disco Elysium series and get to the end of our first playthrough, you will see just like this beautiful moment in which Pinckney and I are talking about Disco Elysium, in which I failed, right? I failed and the game ended. And Pinckney was like, the game could have ended there for me. And he was genuine about it. Now, Disco Elysium can go on for, oh my God, like I literally got to the first boss in Disco Elysium. But the narrative was so strong, it was so incredible, it was so good that Pinckney was like, what? This is done. Like I feel completely satisfied with the money spent in Disco Elysium based on the quality of the prose, the quality of the narrative, quality of the, you know, the art, the music, blah 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 blah. And that's from a perspective of a guy that, you know, doesn't play games. He doesn't exist in this culture the way that I would say, you know, we all do. For anybody who doesn't know, Pinckney was my my graduate professor in creative writing. Okay, so let's get back to some. Let's talk about some more chat messages, because I've probably missed a bunch in my ranting. And there's actually judges in this who give them points and feedback, and at the author character with the most points wins the challenge. Dope, cool. Well, I say win, but really this is like, yeah, right. I mean, it's the same thing with our jams, right? Like somebody wins most compelling narrative, but it's what the fuck, everybody wins. You finished it, great, you're a winner. Especially with Twitch or Itch's voting. It's just like, shit doesn't make any sense. Our stories gets points, feedback. Yeah. Well, it's cool that you get feedback. Feedback is valuable. But I will say there's one thing that you have to learn, because I think, if I remember correctly, you're about to start going into your higher education. If I remember correctly, that you're going into college soon. And if you end up pursuing creative writing while you're in college, pay attention early. Pay attention to who says things that don't apply to what you're trying to do, right? You will probably see somebody in your creative writing class, if you end up taking one, who says something along the lines of, well, this is childish, or this is too simplistic, or whatever. Just don't listen to him flat out. Like, just don't. It's just not worth it. I have always found that the most important comments are the people who liked your stuff and the professor. The reason why is because the people who liked your stuff are your audience, and the professor, because they know what the fuck they're talking about, right? Whereas the people who didn't like it or had critiques don't know what they're fucking talking about. They just don't. Like, sorry, everybody's too young, everybody's too new. 80% of the people in the creative writing classroom don't know what a scene is. And so when they say things like, this character is unbelievable, it's like, don't worry about it. They don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. So just bear that in mind. If like you get some kind of weird feedback about shit like that, you can ignore it. It's okay. As long as you're following tenets of like solid character construction, this medium's it's just too subjective. It's too subjective to take criticism seriously. Anyway, let's see. There's no money in indie game development anymore unless you're lucky. Yeah, I mean, right. It's the same thing with writing. It's just the same thing with all art in general. Like, if you wanted to be a painter, you're fucked. Like, I'm going to move to New York and be a painter. Okay, sure. I'm going to be a short story writer. Okay. And I'm going to go to space. Let's see. People experience short games, those pieces of gold in bundles. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's going to have to be. Well, I mean, this was why fiction magazines came about, right? These bundles are the what I've been talking about. They're the gatekeepers, right? They're the curators of good. And while I do love a completely democratic system in which anybody can make a game, anybody can make their dream game, there is something to be said about having a gatekeeper. There is something to be said about having a curator. Because like, if we could just get some kind of common grammar, I don't know what it is, but if we could just get some kind of common something or other in which we can start to talk about games, because we have that in literature already. Right? We have this common thing, but like games are still just Wild Westy in a way. And in a way I really love that. I do love that, but it also makes it so that a lot of times really talented people can't stand out. Where the problem doesn't seem to exist in writing quite so much as it is that there's just billions of people who think that they can write. Let's see. Some of them. Oh, isn't Hemingway in the public domain by now? Yeah, I would assume, but you can still go buy The Sun Also Rises, and it's still like $15. Some of them are, so people are within their rights to sell them now. Oh, okay, right. I finished my chapter 5 fifth entry today, actually, to the character design competition. I'm not about to go into my master's, or at least I'm flip-flopping about it, but this is still great advice. Okay, cool. I'm glad you appreciate it. So I thought that, I don't know, I got this sense that you were going into your bachelor's degree. I don't know why though, because I know that Awesome Trinket is, but for some reason I thought you were. Ignore me. I don't know why I thought that. Charity bundles are great, but an anthology-like bundle provider would be better. Yes, I agree. Yeah, an anthology is kind of like, well, this is, so in the literary world, we have a couple of these, right? There's the zine, then there's the magazine, or journal, and journals are, anybody can start a journal, or a zine, but journals are typically considered to be like a little more, they're a little harder, I guess, to get into. And they can range from like some dude in Florida to like a University of California Riverside, which is where Fiction International is. And it varies widely. And I also don't know why it's called Fiction International, because I'm pretty sure that they just only publish American writers, but whatever. But then there's anthologies, and anthologies are typically the best things that came out this year, right? So there's the Pushcart Prize. The Pushcart Prize is the best short story prize. And they hand out a bunch of Pushcart Prizes, and I thought Pushcart Prizes were the most valuable thing in the entire world. And then I got to the MFA, and Pinckney said, people don't give a shit about Pushcart Prize nominees. Bear in mind that we're talking about the writing world, which is very old, and nobody gives a shit about anything anymore, right? Because nobody makes any money from it. And so they just it's just a big circle jerk between the people who've been around the longest, and we're just kind of waiting for them to die so that we can figure out how to make money again. And what was I going to say? Oh, but the anthologies are like they go out and they look for stuff that was published this year, and then they say, can we publish that in our thing, right? In a bundle. So the magazines publish the story the first time, and then the anthologies come in and they take the stories the second time. And then people typically read the anthologies because nobody wants to spend $15 a month to get a random grouping of short stories. It is what it is. Let's see. But I think games can do it. That's actually why, this is kind of what started this whole journey for me anyway, was that like I saw this potential in, like, I don't have a subscription to a journal, and I write for like presumably a living. But like, I don't do it because I don't like most of the writing that comes in, and I'm not going to read it. Like, I'll get a couple of issues, I'll read one story out of it, and then I'll go, fucking, I don't want to read the rest of this. And then I don't read it, and then I just have a book on my shelf. And that sucks. But a bundle of games online, I will probably play all 15 of them, right? I probably will. And so that to me means something. It means a big thing. Because I also know many writers, and none of them read the magazines that they subscribe to. They read a story or two, a poem or two, and then they stop. They don't read the whole thing. Nobody does. But I bet all of them would probably at least try for 2 seconds all the games. The common grammar seems to be insert game here, like. Yeah, right. Souls-like. Metroidvania. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, again, yeah, this is like, they'll say it's a survival horror. FPS survival horror. But yeah, the genres are largely mechanics based. And they usually tag the end of the game with its emotional content. So they'll say it's a third-person action-adventure fantasy. Right? Like, they'll say a perspective and then a particular... And this is the thing, is like I've played The Surge and I've played Dark Souls, and they're both Souls-likes, but like, I don't know, there's something that just feels so fundamentally different about them to me. Like, The Surge just doesn't have the morose, it doesn't have the macabre, it doesn't have the despair of Dark Souls. And to me, like, Dark Souls is about despair. And I don't know, it's just like, it's so fundamental to the design of the game that like, it seems weird to, like, yes, they are both third-person games in which you hit things with melee combat, but like, I don't know, like, I just feel like there's something else. There's like this other thing that we could talk about. Something. I don't know what it is, though. I might be misunderstanding grammar. No, you understood grammar exactly how I mean it. Some kind of universal grammar in which we can ascribe things, right? Like, some way that we can talk about games universally. Because we just kind of don't. Like, we can talk about their mechanics, but we can't talk about their emotional content somehow. I don't know why. And it's not even that like we refuse to do it as a community of gamers. It's just that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. And I don't know why. It drives me crazy. Yes, I was referring to the writing challenge. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I'm almost caught up. Dream, are you going to undergrad? Okay. I have a BS. Fuck me. Why did I think that you were starting your bachelor's? I have no idea why. Yeah, I think that anything that you dedicate 4 years to influences your writing. If you have a bachelor's in psychology, you write about psychology a little bit. You know, like, there's not much psychology in my stuff. Not to the same degree. Because I just didn't study it. I just don't know a whole lot about it. Description of atmosphere and themes and their relationship with the mechanics. In regards to the universal grammar of video games, 4 years of comp sci means I write a lot of code. But it also means that you can probably describe a phone better than I can. And I don't mean that in like a, whoa, you can write code, therefore you're a techie and you know, like the bezel. Exactly. There you go. Is it bezel or bevel? I can't remember. The curly phone, the curl part. But you just kind of, you could describe hacking. Absolutely. Have you read my book? The hacking is a joke. There's like in my cyberpunk book, there's in the first chapter, there's a hacking scene, and I'm pretty sure I just have the character meditate, and then he propagates his botnet. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I have no idea. But I don't even necessarily mean that there's more veracity to your description. I just mean that there's like a confidence to it. You know what to talk about because you know it better, right? Whereas like me, who doesn't know tech very well, I mean, I know it pretty okay. Meditate, it's like, it's cyberpunk. He's, you know, his brain is hooked into his computer. You didn't read it, did you? Corbin, you didn't read the book or the beginning. Botnet sounded like brain controlled tech. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that. Like I kind of, this is going to sound dumb too. I kind of imagine him like Zenyatta in that moment from Overwatch. Like, you know, Zenyatta is always kind of in the lotus pose. You read the first chapter. Okay, cool. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's another hacking scene that's even worse later. And I actually very much attempted to make that one more realistic. Oh, you don't have to. It's fine. You don't have to read past the first chapter. I don't want anybody to read it that doesn't. If you're not, here's the thing. I got over the idea of a captive audience a long time ago. Well, at the beginning of my MFA. Because Pinckney said, and again, like, I know that I quote him all the time, but he's one of the most influential human beings in my entire life. Pinckney said that all the people who are writing in the MFA program are so used to having a captive audience, meaning people who must read their work in order to get an A in the class, that they have forgotten that they need to remain humble, right? And I came in thinking, I was exactly the person he was talking about, where I thought that people needed to read my stuff because I wrote it. And I was like, I am a fucking asshole. And it just changed everything about that. It just, if the only people who I want to read the Salt Lake Shitty are the people who started reading it and were absolutely compelled to read it, and that's it. Like I said just a little bit ago about Ubisoft. Like, I love Ubisoft games. I grew up playing Ubisoft games. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I got like an hour and a half into, and I was like, I'm not going to do this. I can't. It's not for me. It's well made. It's great. Wonderful. Love it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And that is okay. You know what I mean? Whereas like with Elden Ring, I couldn't get up from the couch. Partially because I was sick, and partially because I wouldn't have gotten up from the couch if I wasn't sick. One moment. I should probably text my wife back. Okay, so, but to talk a little bit more about the hacking scene in that book, because I thought it was kind of funny. So that one I think it's okay. Like I really tried to go like, what are the proper steps to hacking? And I looked it up, and I played a shitload of hacking games like Night Team 4. That's a game that I actually kind of want to play again. And I don't think Hacknet is actually very accurate, but I love Hacknet. That game is so fun. It's a great narrative game too. There's a really wonderful story in that game where you hack into. You have to figure out what happened to this guy in Hacknet. He like went missing, and as you delve into his story and you figure out what happened, you find out that he's like being held by these people or something. And you're instructed by your hacker group to turn his pacemaker off. Like you hack into his pacemaker and you turn it off and you kill him. Oh my God, it was so cool. It was like this, oh God, it was awesome. And it's like a terminal game. It was so fucking cool. I loved it. And it was like the power of a hacking game to tell such a strong narrative. Like there was just no way that I was ever going to compete with that. Never, ever was I going to be able to compete with that in my book. I've heard that pacemakers have Bluetooth connections, which are kind of notoriously insecure, but I don't know if you can actually turn one off. I can't remember exactly how it worked. I just remember that there was something to do with his heart, and you were able to get in and turn it off. And oh man, just if you have a Corbin, just buy Hacknet. Okay, just go buy it. You will love that game. It is fucking awesome. It is so cool. And then Night Team 4 is also really cool, but the story is not as good. But from what I understand, it's like a slightly more realistic version of hacking in a game. But the narrative, you're like a government hacker in Night Team 4. And supposedly it's very realistic. But I don't know. It just, the story wasn't, Hacknet like grabbed me by the throat. And I don't know shit about coding, but like by the end I was like, I am a genius, you know, like, and because it's a terminal game, like there is no clicking, like everything is done with terminal commands. And oh God, so good. Such a good game. Do I have it installed? I could probably install it in like 2 seconds. It's not big. I think, recorded myself playing it, like the final boss battle in that game. And I sent it to my wife, I think, because I beat it. She went home while we were in our master's degrees. And she wanted to know what I was doing, so I recorded my face. Let's see. Library. Hacknet. Oh, you beautiful bastard. I've played this game for 70 hours. What? 70 hours? This is actually a good test. I'm downloading a game while I'm streaming. I wonder how this affects my stream. Because the game's only 300 megabytes, so. One sec, I'm going to mute so I can smoke. Any aberrations? Because the handy thing about living alone is you're the only person on your internet. Well, not alone, but like there's one family on an internet, and our dog doesn't use any internet, so. Another game I want to play that might be hacker-like is Hypnospace Outlaw. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. I've never heard of it. And it is done. There's a lot of games in this hacker space, though. There's like Exapunks, right? Like that game apparently is supposed to be super realistic. Too realistic. Like that was no. I tried. No. But Hacknet was the one that it was perfect. Like it was just the right amount of all of it. You know, you feel like a hacker, but you're not really hacking. There we go. Username. Boot. I even named my character Boot earlier. Already in use. Thardigan. Password. WJG. Confirm password. WJG. Wow, this is new. This wasn't in the game before. Once created, a session's language cannot be changed. I gotta move my microphone. Is there any way I could make this? Eh, it's okay. Boot complete. Whoa, this is totally new. All of this is new. There's no, like, pictures or anything. Can y'all hear the game? Shit, of course. Let's push that up to like 28. Oh, it only goes up to 25. Okay. You can hear it? Okay, good. As of right now, you're at risk. Learn as quickly as possible. Begin the tutorial sequence by pressing the continue button below. Connect to a computer by typing connect IP in terminal or by clicking node on the network map. That's right, you could also do that. Where's the terminal? Oh. This terminal. Shit, you probably can't see that. What if I move that over here? Wow, this is new too. The game didn't originally have a terminal. Let's see. It's just gonna like put that there, I guess. And then, oops. Let's move. Aha. Let's move that over there. This is going to be really weird and confusing for a moment while I figure out what I'm doing. I promise there's a goal in mind. Okay, so if we move that, like... Game is really loud. Okay, cool. How is it now? Better? Inception, yeah. Oh, the composer did it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I remember the music being very standout. Okay, presumably you can see me and the terminal simultaneously. Although the terminal covers up the entire game, so what the fuck am I doing? Well, now... Jesus Christ, now I'm confused. How do I fix this problem? I do this. Aye. Okay. Okay, I'm getting it. I'm figuring it out. Don't you worry. Yeah, you have to interact with the terminal. You can either type or you can, let's move me up here. You can either type in the terminal or you can click nodes. Super quiet now? Okay, I'll turn it up just a little bit. Yeah. So like when you launch Hacknet, it launches a computer terminal. Like it launches this terminal, and you can type in here. The worry that I have though is that I'm not going to be able to type in this terminal while this window is open. So, but if I come in here and I click turn off full screen. What the fuck? Where am I? Oh wow. This might just not work. Like flat not work at all. Okay, so let's try it now. What is this IP? Oh. Okay, for some reason it just, I don't know why, it just connected. So maybe this terminal actually doesn't do anything. Maybe the terminal is elsewhere. But anyway, connected to Cathartic and PC. And if I remember correctly, I think I'm actually connected to my PC. Like if I probe the system. Proxy detected, firewall detected, open ports required for crack 4. So I need to open 4 ports. Let's see. Scan. That should be all you'll need from your own server for now. Disconnect from your machine. Where's the terminal though? But I remember there being a place that you could type all this stuff instead. What happens if I close that? Oh, it closes Hacknet. Okay, cool. So if I close the terminal window, it closes Hacknet. Got it. See, well, see, there you go. Now you understand. Launched it from another computer. Because I know so little about what I'm doing. I can run into problems. Continue with account Cathartic again. Now we're starting over again. Because I keep doing this without saving. I keep accidentally closing the game without saving. Oh, God, for some reason my sternum pops like all the time. Okay, scan network. But where? What? So if I disconnect, oh, I really wanted to show you like how the typing can work. What if it's here now? Open ports required for crack 0. There was some way to do this. How the fuck do you do it? I'm losing my mind. There was even like hotkeys to like open windows and shit. Terminal windows, I mean. Yeah, this looks real. Oh yeah, you're probably not even seeing. Here, let me bring that down. So like this is my PC on the network, right? And then I scan my network and then I find this PC, Manic Communications. And then I need to, the first thing to do on any system is scan it for adjacent nodes. This will reveal computers on your map that you can use. Scan this computer now. But I can't. That should be all you'll need. Am I not disconnected from my own machine? Connect to the outside machine. Ah, okay. Yes, now there's all my typing. So here's the terminal window. This all looks very small. Am I correct in this? That this is like kind of not zoomed in? Yeah, right. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? With like a text-based game. But yeah, so this would be the terminal that I can use to type into things. So like, need to click back into the game. So probe. Here you can see this is the tutorial. Here you can see the active ports, active security, and the number of open ports required to successfully crack this machine using port hack. This machine has no active security and requires no open ports to crack. If you are prepared to, it is possible to crack this computer using the program port hack. So now we need to do, what is it, run? No command run, check syntax. So what is the correct syntax for running a program? It still says that my syntax is incorrect. Let's get a hint, huh? To run a program you own on the machine you are connected to, type the name of the program as the terminal command. A program will, fucking hell. A program name will never require .exe on the end. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? Is that you don't run, oh yeah, there probably is a help. Yeah, help. Is that you don't need to type in .exe because that would be annoying, right? To constantly have to type in .exe. So they removed some of the things as a part of hacking. And then, but they left just enough that it feels right. You know what I mean? So like, just, you're not seeing everything. There we go. So this is my current terminal window. What the hell? If this continues being this realistic, it is real enough to be a legitimate beginner teaching tool. I mean, like, after playing this game was kind of how I developed the nomenclature or the vernacular, I guess, for, oops, that's not what I meant to do. For the hacking scenes in Salt Lake City. Oh, thank God it's using Linux commands for some reason. I was expecting, fucking, what do I know? I didn't know that we were using Linux commands. So what was how do you? Folder name ls kill ps rm scan. What was I doing? I need to run port hack. Copies file name, no. So do I just type in port hack? Aha, beautiful. And now you can't see this right now, but the program is running over here, right? Password found. Yeah, port hack, yeah. And congratulations, you have taken control of an external system and are now its administrator. You can do whatever you like with it. However, you should start by scanning for local nodes. To locate additional computers, do this using the scan command. Right, so now let's bring this kind of back into line now that you kind of understand the UI a little bit better. And we'll make me small again. Now let's just put me like right here. Right in the center, so I'm not in front of any of the fun stuff. LMAO, if it were that easy. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, it's obviously not that easy to just type in port hack and then suddenly I'm in control of the computer. But this is the thing, right? This is the thing about fiction, is that, and this is why this game strikes the balance so well, because in fiction, reading a true hack would suck for most people, right? Who want to read a story. They'd be like, oh my God, like what? It's been 20 minutes and this guy is just watching this program just go and go. And I'm just watching him watch it. And that would be like the worst. But in fiction, there's a kind of a famous saying, which is that fiction isn't what is true, it is what should be true. Meaning that there is truth to it, but jazzed. You know what I mean? Like it's jazzed up a bit. So like, and good fiction will try to strike this balance of truth and jazz. So like a game about being a hacker needs to feel like you are being a hacker, but it can't be really like you're hacking. Does that make sense? Like, it's this weird interplay between these two terms that kind of don't gel together. Like they kind of can't work together because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you have to feel like it, but not really. It's got to be fun, right? It's got to be like you have to feel like you're a hacker, but you're having fun. No results, not a problem. Next, you should investigate the file system. List the files and folders in the current directory. There was a way to do that. ls. Okay, so now I'm looking at home log bin sys. Navigate to the bin folder. Using the command cd bracket /bin close bracket. That's probably incorrect. Totally incorrect. ls bin. Invalid path. ls bin invalid path. What? ls/bin? ls bin. Oh no, it's cd. cd bin. Aha. You see? I'm a genius. Okay. Let's see. To view the contents of the current folder, you are in use of the command ls. There are no programs, but you should look at config.txt. cd config.txt. Is that correct? That doesn't work. Okay, I'm just gonna click on it. Okay, now to clear your tracks before, or totally useless. Now to clear your tracks before you leave, move up a folder in the directory tree using cd. So note the wildcard indicates backup. cd dot. Sorry about my dog barking. If a person talks outside, he assumes that we're gonna be murdered. So let me go let him know that we're gonna be murdered. It turns out there was no murderer. It's a different command navigation. Yeah. Oh my God, Blue. Relax. There's no murderer. I'm so mad this game exists because this is the game I want to make. I'm so relieved it exists because I don't have to make it to play it. Yeah, he's very effective. He's too effective. Where, man, if somebody is like whispering about what they had for lunch, Baloo's like, we have got to keep an eye out. Yeah, I can understand the idea of being mad about this game existing. That was kind of how I felt when I first read Cormac McCarthy, where I was like, oh, that was the writer I wanted to be. So I guess I just die. Like that was all I wanted to do. I was like, well, that was shit. But I think what you end up finding is like, as you play this game, you'll run into things where you're like, this is what I would do different. Like if I could make this is what I would do different. And here's the thing too, is that just because this game exists doesn't mean there shouldn't be more. You know what I mean? Like people who bought Hacknet are like, I would absolutely pay another $10 to play exactly the same game with a different story or with slightly different mechanics, or, you know, like, don't worry. That is ultimately what I'm trying to say. All right. Like my most recent book that I'm working on is I'm like effectively trying to recreate Dark Souls, like a Dark Souls-y feeling in a story. Still, I'm struggling with that, by the way. Just because like, why doesn't it exist in book form? It just doesn't exist. But there's a better version of it, and it's playing From Software games, right? Like, I don't think I'll ever really be able to replicate perfectly what a From Software game feels like, but it's pretty damn close. And it's not pretty damn close. I'm happy with it, is what I should say. Because I wouldn't say that I'm on the level of Miyazaki, but what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter. Like the attempt and the genuine, like, earnest goal to make people feel like how they feel playing Dark Souls is enough for people to be like, I will totally do this, right? Like, I love Dark Souls so much, I will gladly read this book. And so, yeah, like that's kind of the thing about running into that thing that you wanted to make, is that you can always make more of it. And people are going to be stoked about that. You know, like, it's kind of like if you were to read Marvel, like a Marvel comic, and you're like, God damn it, I really wanted to make a book with pictures in it that was about a really powerful guy. You know, it's like, you can always make more of them. And people are going to be so stoked about it. True, you can always alter it. Yeah, right. Well, and it's inevitable, right? Like, because it's made by a separate human being, there's just going to be different things. There's going to be different focuses. There's going to be different, and ultimately, it will be a unique artifact that will justify its existence in the same way as the one that you ran into and wished you had made. Does that make sense? Just making it confirms its existence. It sounds tautological, but it's kind of true. Like, by making it becomes unique, even if it is a ripoff. Which is why, like, a lot of the really famous writing advice is like, just steal. Like, what? Don't worry, just steal. Just anything you thought was cool, steal it. Anyway, so move to the log folder. CD log. Ooh. You can delete a file using the command. Oh yeah, that's right. You have to delete the log because then people will see that you connected to their machine. You can delete a file using the command rm file name. However, you can delete all files in the current directory with the command rm asterisk. Pop, 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 pop. Don't type rm dash rf. Why? I wish I could go back and do that now. DC. Congratulations, you have completed the guided section of this tutorial. To finish it, you must locate the process ID of this tutorial program and kill it. The help command will give you a complete command list at any time. That's delete everything command. Oh. Gotcha. So to finish it, you must locate the process ID of this program and kill it. File name or use PS processes. Okay, so I used PS to list the current running processes and their PIDs. UID PID name root 222 tutorial version 16.2. Root 222 tutorial version 16.2. I have no idea where to go from here. The command PS will list the PID of every currently running process. So do I kill tutorial version 16.2? No. Invalid PID. Oh, the PID is 222. So kill 222. I say I'm a hacker. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a hacker now. Like, no big deal. I am a cyberpunk man. And now I get an email, first contact. Hi, I don't know you, and I'm sad to say that I never will, but if you're reading this, it means you might be the only person that can make things right. Right now I'm trapped. There's no way out and not enough time. I need your help. But there's something you need to take care of first. The faster, the better. Hacknet OS wasn't meant to be released as it is now. After a while, an automated tracker will activate itself. We can't let that happen. Connect to your own node. It should be green on your net map. Then find and delete securitytracer.exe. When you're done, just reply to this email. Hurry. So I connect my piece, and I go into, what was it? How do I go down in files? LS? Fuck it, I'm gonna click. Stash, miscellaneous log. So yeah, you can do all this typey, but I don't want to. Oh, what was the delete? Remove. rm security tracer.exe. Delete. cd, that's right. Oh, can I just DC? Yeah, okay. And then oops. Oh yeah, that's right. You can like store shit. And then eventually, like, okay, so we're gonna stop here. But you can like, eventually the programs that you start to use so much RAM and power and CPU, you know what I mean? That like you have to like get pretty good at feathering things. So like you're running one program and you have to push your RAM all the way to the edge, and like, but you can't push it over, otherwise your shit will break or whatever. And then so you get, there's like this really interesting push and pull of like running certain programs, disconnecting, running other programs. There's so much information you have to keep in mind that like you leave open like windows as like these windows here that are like kind of instructions for the next puzzle, because ultimately it's a puzzle game. It's a hacking puzzle game with a really good story. And yeah, it's just awesome, right? But I think I kind of made my point, which I can't remember what that point is now, but it was a good one. So we're gonna just we're going to figure out how to save and then exit to menu and then exit game. And then we're going to turn on the picture. Your point is this game is awesome. That is my point, and I made it well. Because it just goes back to that same thing I'm talking about all the time, which is like you don't always find them. You don't always find them, but like when you do, when you run into that game that somehow combines its emotional and narrative text with its mechanics, it is an artifact like unto nothing else. Like, it is a truly unique, incredible, awesome thing. And like, that's kind of the thing I'm talking about with this universal grammar. Is like, why are some games like that and some games aren't? Why does playing a Dark Souls or a From Software game feel like a complete experience? You know? I don't know what complete means. Sometimes in writing we call it like an X factor, or we call it like I usually say when I'm reading through a story and everything just kind of works in concert and all of it is in conjunction, I say that the story is humming. Like, it just hums, you know? It's like when a band is playing perfectly in sync. Everything works exactly how it's supposed to, and it creates this art, right? And games do it when they just combine those two things. They combine the emotional text, the narrative, and the art, and the ludic together. But it's kind of rare. Like, you don't always run into it. But man, when you do, there's just like, to me, there's like no more powerful storytelling medium. But anyway, so probably ought to start thinking about wrapping up. I've been going for 2 hours, and I was supposed to eat dinner 2 hours ago, and then I didn't. But it's been good to be back, and I'm glad that I went over and talked to a bunch of people. Well, I talked to 2 people, but I'm glad that I talked to those 2 people about what's coming and about coming back. But yeah, so near future, you've got D&D. Okay, cool, perfect. Glad to see you're not terrible. Yeah, I'm not terribly sick. I'm good now. I'm all good. But keep an eye out. I will be updating Game Jam stuff. That shit's coming, I promise. There will be a Game Jam coming up again soon. And it will be centered around, get thinking in your minds about finishing that thing that you set out to finish or submitted and then kind of didn't get back to. You know, think about that. Think about that kind of experience, that game, that whatever, that digital narrative, whatever. Think about finishing that thing, because that is going to be a central focus of the Game Jam. And yeah, so I'll, Discord and next week, all that stuff. Anyway, it was nice to stream again. I enjoyed it. And I will talk to you all later. Post.